Music matters. Last generation. Woo! How we doing, gang?
What's up, bro?
Good.
Feeling good. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Thanks for coming on, guys. Nice to officially meet all of you.
Yeah,
Dude, thanks for having us, man. Dude, hell yeah.
Yeah, no, I was excited when you reached out. I had known your stuff prior because I saw you on that bill that you did at the very first show at the New Shed.
Yeah.
And Bobby's like a close friend of mine. So I went to that show and I missed your set by like a little bit. I think I got there like 20 minutes after, and I remember like listening to you that day and I had wanted to see you live, but I didn't catch it. So it was cool when you reached out. But yeah, I've been liking your guys' stuff for a bit now, so it was cool. But yeah, what are the general emotions like right now? I know you guys got a tour coming up. What's exciting in your world?
Just really tour. Like we've been planning it since like October, and we're finally 6 weeks out.
Yeah.
It's coming up fast. It's gonna be really fun.
Yeah, you said you're 6 weeks out. 6 weeks out?
Yeah, 6 weeks. We leave. I think it's actually 6 weeks from today.
Yeah.
We leave on Wednesday to go up to Berkeley, and then we play Gilman the next day.
Oh hell yeah! I'm from the Bay.
Oh,
so
sick.
I love Gilman. That's like one of my favorite venues in the world.
Yeah, it's
Fucking love that place. That's really one of the only places that we end up playing whenever we go up to the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Actually, no, we played. Well, not with these guys because they're still kind of new, but Third and Army.
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
you guys played Third and Army?
We played Third and Army. It was on our very first tour.
That's
We
kind
did
of like
that.
an OG spot.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Also, when I got a very bad throat infection, and
Yeah.
I had to power through that.
oh, dude, yeah. Third and Army's crazy actually, because I feel like that's usually either hardcore or electronic shit. So it's cool you guys played that spot. I feel like they don't do a lot of stuff outside of that vein. That's sick.
Yeah, I think shout out to I think it was Closet Monster
Cool.
that was that recommended that spot. They're way heavier than us, and they were like, "Fuck it, let's just do it at Third and Army, man." I was like, "All
Yeah.
right, fuck it, whatever."
That's super sick. How many dates are on this tour you guys are going on in a couple weeks?
It's only six dates. Yeah,
Six,
Something like
nice.
that.
just
Okay.
small little. It's our first headline run too, so it's gonna be really fun.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, but you guys have been on the road before, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is gonna be our third tour.
Okay, gotcha. But the other ones were opening for people?
They've all been DIY kind of. This one, well, what is it? We opened for Sad Park back in September, and we got to connect with our agent Alex Martin, and just chopping it up a little bit, and he brought up the idea of why don't you guys try doing a small headline run, like in January, February, when there's not a whole lot of traffic going out. So we're super grateful for him. He really helped point us in the right direction.
Yeah, that's super smart, dude. The whole booking your own tour, full DIY thing is literally a grind. I think
yeah.
But it's interesting. I think I've thought about this before. I do feel like there is a direct correlation between bands that do that in the early days and bands that find tour success in the long run, because I think they understand the value of it very quickly, and they also understand how fucking difficult it is.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, what has that been like for you guys, trying to learn how to book all these shows yourself and kind of just do the whole DIY thing?
I mean, I'm sorry, I'm taking up most of the talking because I'm the one who does all the booking.
You
and
know
stuff.
all
Yeah,
the stuff. So.
He is the dude who does all the booking.
Yeah, I do all the booking. I book all the tours. I book all the shows. But it's been a real learn as you go type thing. And now that we're kind of we're blessed to fucking move up from not just only playing DIY spots in people's houses, which don't get me wrong are really fun, but we're starting to play actual venues and stuff now. And that's in it a monster in of its own, trying to get in touch with production and getting multiple ad mats and stuff like that. It's a constant learning experience, but it's so fun. It's really, I don't know, it makes us more grateful that oh shit, we can actually do this.
Yeah, I think having that gratefulness is something that's really, really, really key. And it's interesting. I feel like bands in the early days where they feel like they deserve things without earning it right off rip, I feel like a lot of times those are the bands that don't go on to appreciate things how much of a privilege it is to do a whole headlining run, especially one you didn't book yourself, you know. But I think having that mindset is so key in the early days, especially because you just understand how difficult it can be to do all that yourself. I feel like if you're able to multitask the music and the booking right now, when eventually one day you can just do the booking, you're a whole different experience, a whole different ballpark.
Yeah,
for sure.
What was been the hardest lesson you've had to learn with that? Have you kind of made any big mistakes in the early days in terms of the touring stuff and had to kind of figure it out and recalibrate?
I think the number one thing I learned is how to because obviously I love this band, we have high hopes for ourselves.
Yeah.
But bringing the realities that our band is actually capable of at this moment, like kind of down to earth, is kind of been the hardest pill to swallow. Like, yeah, I would I think on our very first tour, I tried to book us at the Great American Music Hall. Oh no, Brick and Mortar.
Oh yeah,
in San Francisco.
Did you talk to Gerald, the booker there, or did you talk to AJ?
I can't remember. It was like a couple years ago.
I love those guys. We've done a bunch of shows there.
I think they straight up are like, yo, like we'll give you like 10th hold, but like understand that you have like, I think at the time we only had like 300 monthly listeners on Spotify.
Yeah.
It's like, and they were like, this is like a 500 cap room. I don't know if you can pull a Hail Mary, but maybe look into other options.
Yeah, that's cool that's how they approached it.
Yeah,
though.
it was like, oh shit, yeah, I never really thought about that.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult to like, I think in the early days really come to terms with like where you're starting.
Yeah,
and it's interesting. I think there's certain bands who like, every band has like a different threshold, right? Like certain bands start and they play locally for years and years and years before they can accumulate any kind of following. And some bands, for whatever reason, just do it like instantly. You know, I think it varies from band to band and situation to situation. And like, I think there's like a genre thing there. There's like a what did you do before thing, you know? But it's all like, I think it's really important to embrace like the mentality that like this could take forever and like you're here for it to take forever, and just like doing it every single day and never stopping, you know?
Yeah, in the long run, it's gonna be something that's gonna be so worth it, and we're gonna look back on the days like, man, remember when like we were just like cold emailing like fucking
it's a lot of trial there for the most part.
We even like cold emailed a bunch of like record like companies.
Like record labels and stuff.
Here's our like shitty like 2-minute demo.
Yeah, like we recorded like my grandparents' like, living room and shit.
House, and they were like, Don't touch me.
Dude, but I think you should do that. Like, I think a lot of people will discourage that. I don't think anybody should discourage that. We know this guy just recently who like took the craziest shot in the dark email ever with like, you know, pretty much to like not a major but like a major adjacent label, and it was a band with like no music out, like literally no music out, zero. Sent them a record and they got signed like a multi-album deal. Like it's, and I mean that's like once in a blue moon. That's not very rare.
Dude, that's fucking amazing.
But all that to be said, like it does still happen.
Yeah, 100%.
I think the mistake people make is when they think like that happening is going to just change the trajectory of everything for them, you know?
100%, yeah.
But it's still like, you know, obviously the resources expand there.
Yeah, like people I think automatically go from like, oh, I don't have to work anymore to like that mindset. Like, 100%.
Yeah. I think so much of it too is like appreciating like every single experience individually. And being like, I'm going to like, even if this takes forever, I'm gonna cherish every single experience that like comes along with that, you know?
Yeah.
What do you guys think like musically so far? I guess because I know you started like somewhat like coming out of the pandemic, right? Like around that time.
Kind of like right as the pandemic was happening, and then we played like we had like a couple songs. We were doing a bunch of covers. We played one show. It was actually the day that Kobe Bryant died. We played a pay-to-play show at Chain Reaction.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Kobe.
No, for real. And then the pandemic happened, and it was just like nothing until like late 2021, something like that.
Yeah. What do you think were like the biggest challenges because like when you first began? Because I feel like that's a pretty difficult time to start releasing music, like right after the pandemic and stuff. Yeah. Did that kind of time period play like a big role in the way that you guys had to look at what you were doing at that period?
I feel like it kind of gave us a lot of time to like focus, like really like lock in on like creating music, and kind of like defining our sound too. Yeah, we were like thinking of like what songs we actually want to like do, and we really had like the freedom to like do what we really wanted to do at the time, and just kind of like hash it out, you know. So I feel like it's more like of an opportunity other than like it was like difficult, but then also it's like there was also like good to it, not just like cons, just there was pros too. Yeah, to having like that long break.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I feel like that was what the pandemic was for a lot of people. It was like a time to like embrace things that like you'd wanted to do forever, but it never like had the time to do.
This is true.
How did that first? What were you saying? Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say like that's exactly me, because like right before the pandemic happened, I mean I graduated like right after the pandemic happened, but like the trajectory I had in life was I was gonna go to law school. I was gonna become a lawyer and all this. I never really wanted to do that, but I was doing it for like outside reasons and shit. Music has always been like the one passion that I've had, and during the pandemic I was like, fuck it, like it's now or never.
God, that's so sick. Do you think if the pandemic didn't happen, you wouldn't have pursued this?
Yeah, 100%.
That's crazy, bro. Yeah, it's a pretty alternative like universe to think about. Yeah. It's pretty strange. 100%. I mean, I think just about like, I mean, the goods, the bads, the everything, whatever. But it's like the lifetime that like we lived. Anybody within like our like I don't know how old you guys are, but like anybody within like relatively our same age group, they will have an entirely different experience than anybody who's not in our age group, just because of the pandemic and the fact that we lived through it. That's like a thing that we will forever think about. I don't think it'll ever not be present in the way that we grew up.
Yeah, it's such a crazy thing how like in different circles it altered everybody in like different ways, but like it was so like worldwide.
Yeah, everyone got affected no matter
until
what.
The next one. I mean,
I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not.
I think it's good that you think about that kind of period of time as like a more of like a positive thing now, that it was like a key factor in like starting the band in the early days. What was it kind of like getting things off the ground in the very beginning? Like when you kind of graduated from like playing those just like, cover gigs and like pay-to-play shows to being able to play more like DIY stuff to now being able to play like more traditional venues and do your own tours and stuff. That trajectory, like fill in the blanks for me. What were the biggest lessons you learned that you feel like projected you from like one level to the next to the next?
I think in the really, really early days, like getting out of the pandemic, I did follow the kind of like, you know what, we're still a young band, so it's good to kind of take what we can get.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, it was like I started thinking more like, oh well, like are these types of shows gonna actually kind of like help us in the long run? Does it make any more sense to keep shelling out money to promoters that aren't gonna do anything for anybody?
Yeah.
Bar shows.
Bar shows. Yeah, that was one thing. Like we have a lot of young bands who like come up to us and like, oh, like how do we do this and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, my number one thing, don't do pay to play, don't do bar shows. They do nothing for you.
You're wasting money.
Unless you're gonna be like a cover band for the night and you're gonna make tips, like just don't do that.
Yeah.
Like I was just talking to shout out to Two Story House. I was talking to their guitarist Cole the other night. He's like, hey, we got hit up for this bar gig, but like, should we do it? It's like with this band and that band. He sent me the promoter. I'm like, no, I know the promoter. But I mean the dude's cool and everything, just bar shows are just not the way to go.
Yeah. It's interesting to like go from that mentality where you're just like, fuck it, we're gonna take everything we possibly can. Because like, obviously that's where like I think like most live acts, that's like where they start.
Yeah,
like,
everyone's just like whatever they can get, they'll do it.
Yeah, exactly. And then you realize at a certain point you're like, these aren't doing anything for me. Like this is fine and it's fun and whatever, but like playing for like a bar with 9 people is just like there's nothing this is like tangibly
like
doing.
this isn't doing anything. Like we're going on at 11 o'clock at night playing in front of like 9 people who could care less if we're there or not. Like, it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. And then you kind of I think a lot of that is walking back and like realizing like, okay, like what things here like do I keep, what do I get rid of? So once you kind of made that realization, did it change the way that you were booking your own shows? Like what did you begin looking for?
Yeah, 100%. I started tapping in more to like the local scene and like seeing if we can like connect with bands that like sounded either exactly like we did or somewhat adjacent. Yeah. Seeing like where they're playing, like if they're working with any sort of like local promoters and stuff like that, and start trying to like keep it in this like communal circle. Where like, hey, like we fuck with what you're doing. We want to get to that point at some point too. Let's try to do something together.
Yeah, dude. I feel like when you kind of get to that place where you're like carving your own scene, I think that's when like everybody begins to elevate. Like I've always found, like I think of music very like scene adjacent and oriented. That's kind of how I've always thought of everything. But I think like when you can get to a place where like you're able to give a band an opportunity and they give you an opportunity back, and you're kind of like collectively rising in the same way together, I feel like, dude, that's like that begins to be to me what is like really exciting in terms of like traction and stuff. It's like when like there's a whole floor of people going at the same pace doing the same thing, you know.
And it's just like rewarding because it's just like, you know what, like you end up making friends in like these scenes, even though like you probably don't see them a whole lot all the time. Like these are people that like we just their other band just played at the Smell, and we saw somebody that was helping us out in the early days that I haven't seen in like 6 months, and it was like all love, like we're giving each other hugs, like giving each other updates on life and stuff. And it was just really cool. Like it's nice to be able to like reconnect and keep connecting with people that like have helped you like come up, or like you've helped come up in any other way. Like as time goes on.
Yeah. And back to like the thing about like booking shows, I feel like a lot of like it might seem like it's not a lot, but like house shows, even though sometimes they feel like really scuffed.
Yeah.
But like some are like most like successful shows, in my opinion, were like thrown at my house.
Yeah.
Like in my backyard, and later we moved on to the garage because we got noise complaints.
Yeah.
But like we met a bunch of like bands that we're still like with today. Like we all kind of like grew up together. A shout out to right now like Dead Phones and Wreck Effect.
Yeah, Dead Phones and Wreck Effect.
Those two bands also around this like greater LA area. They kind of like started where we started, and then we kind of just like grew up together, and we met both of them at house shows. I think
I booked both of them at your house, like on the same bill, and it was Wreck Effect that actually got the cops called.
Exactly. So, but like it was just an experience. You get to know those people, and then also, there was some people there. It helps with the scene, and there's people that actually came there to listen to music there, to come to a concert there, and so I feel like that's what helped us like a lot, dude, in the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. And I think house shows have like a unique pitch as well to a listener, which is I think something that's really hard to recreate with either a bar or like a regular show or a venue show, whatever. But the thing about a house show is like you can market it as like half of a show and half a party.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
which makes everything way easier. Like it's way easier to convince somebody to go to a party than it is to come watch 3 bands they never heard of.
Yeah.
But you can kind of like coerce those people into a fan in that way.
Yeah.
In like a way that's like often more natural even, because I think like that pipeline, right? The whole like I go to a party and like now I see a band that I think is super sick. I think that's like a really high level of like early fandom,
Yeah, that's like it's also a cool way to be like, oh, I seen this band at a house party or like house show, and it's like, and then you see where they are now to like, oh damn, like that's really cool.
Yeah, I think I know a bunch of bands that like really made that like their forte for a long time.
Yeah,
like doing the house show, like I feel like there was a big scene for that, especially like a lot of the bands Willowbake was playing with. Right? We were talking about them earlier, but like that whole like I feel like there were a lot of bands in that South Bay scene that were doing like crazy fucking house shows for a bit.
Yeah, and I'm really surprised because like a lot of at least when I was in high school, a lot of the like the South Bay house shows and shit, they'd get rolled like almost instantly, to the point where it was kind of dead. Like I mean obviously I could be wrong still, but I only think like the real main like South Bay venues are like Saint Roch and the Sardine in San Pedro, but like those are all
Sardine.
Like the Sardine, yeah, it's owned by the.
I know that place.
No, bro, that place is. The place has got some lore and some history to it, so it's co-owned
100%.
by Todd. I forget his last name, so I'm not going to try to butcher it. From Toys That Kill and 5-Year Plan, and also by Barry Johnson from Joyce Manor.
Okay, that's crazy.
It's in like the butt of San Pedro. It's a cool ass spot. The only downside, it's 21 plus.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Damn, yeah, that name just was like, whoa, the Sardine.
Yeah.
Did you guys like kind of growing up there musically, like in the South Bay? It was interesting. When I first moved here, I didn't know what the South Bay was, and being from the Bay Area, like when I hear South Bay, I think like San Jose, and then like when I moved here. So shout out 408. And then I moved here, and people were like, "Oh, I'm from the South Bay," and I heard, my brain goes like South Bay area.
Yeah, like
people meant like Torrance and like San Pedro and all over there and stuff. Like, what was kind of the musical community like there when you were growing up? Was there a lot of bands coming up at the same time you were?
Not at like the same time that we were, and it's actually really funny. I applied for a job like about 2 months ago, and the owner of the business, like he called me on the phone. I didn't get the job.
Yeah,
and he was like, yo, I just gotta ask you real quick, bro, are you in a band? And he was going on about how like he grew up in like the 80s and the 90s, like punk scene coming out of like Lomita and like Hermosa Beach and stuff, and like after that there were no bands. But like, how
did he find this out?
He just like Googled me when like he saw my resume and stuff. But yeah, no, the South Bay has always had like the little like spouts of like hardcore and like just like regular like punk music. It's mainly within like all like the high schools. I feel like a lot of kids are coming out with like a lot of cool like punk music. As far as like growing up with the South Bay, I mean, there's a lot of history when it comes to like punk rock and like alternative music over there, because you got bands like Black Flag, The Descendants, the Circle Jerks, and the Minutemen that are all coming out of there. But then you have like the more modern ones like Toys That Kill and 5-Year Plan, and then you got like present day like Joyce Manor, who are more like on pop punk, and you got bands like Slaughterhouse that are kind of bringing like the older like punk sound back with like a more like post punk feel. And there's just always like cool shit happening in the South Bay.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's cool. The way you outlined that was cool. Like 1, 2, 3 different generations. I guess not generations, but I guess like 10 eras. To 5 years. Yeah, like little eras of like punk music in the South Bay. What's the place like? I guess I've never really like. Funny enough, when I first moved here, I almost moved to Harbor City.
Oh, that's like right next to where I live.
Yeah, I almost moved there, and that was like the only time I've ever been to like that South Bay area. But like growing up there, did you feel like music was like a heavily encouraged thing? What was it kind of like growing up in that area?
There's a lot of musicians, at least that I went to high school with and that I interacted with. That was around the time when like people weren't doing like all like, or at least to my knowledge, they weren't doing a whole lot of like the house shows and stuff out in Torrance. Yeah, it was, I don't know, it was cool. I feel like a lot of like the music stuff that came out from like people that I was interacting with was like a lot of the mainstream stuff, like Blink and Green Day and Weezer and all those kinds of bands. And then it wasn't really till after high school that I started like really delving into like all the old like South Bay like punk bands and stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's sick. I didn't really know much there at all, so that's cool. I didn't even know Joyce Manners was from there. Like, I knew they were from LA, but I didn't know they were from. Gotcha. I guess it is kind of like a whole subsection of LA.
Yeah, it's just like this little tiny like section like in the southeast corner, which is crazy.
When did you guys first kind of graduate from playing just in the South Bay and around there to like more general LA and kind of like playing spots that weren't just specifically in the South Bay?
I think it was right around the time we finished recording the first record. Because I think we had we played the Sardine actually like once or twice, and then we started moving up into like, actually we started moving out into Orange County in San Diego, and then we started playing like really just like your house, because like we would try to hit up places like The Smell, and like they would just never get back to us. And we couldn't find other bands to play, so we were like, well, fuck it, let's just in his backyard, eventually to the garage.
Yeah. Dude, yeah, it can be harder, I think, than some people think to like grow that network in the early days. Did you just like eventually do that by just hitting up a bunch of bands and eventually some of them got back to you, or like how did that kind of look for you? How did you kind of begin to grow like a network of other bands and friends and stuff?
Yeah, just kind of exactly that. Just hitting up bands, like cold DMing them, waiting for like message requests to get approved and stuff. That's how I met like a lot of the bands that like we're cool with now, like Wreck Effect and Dead Phones, Grave Secrets. Those are the homies.
They're awesome.
Yeah, they're fucking sick. Man, who else? Two Story House, who I mentioned earlier. I don't know if I hit them up directly the first time, but I think somebody posted about Will Awake, and that's how I found out about them.
Gotcha. Yeah, it can be like more difficult than I think a lot of people assume, because it's like, I don't know, I think like you have to like just like kind of put the time in to like eventually let those like relationships just nurture themselves, and then you gotta like go to local shows and you gotta like participate and like be a member like of the scene of people, you know?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will like really complain about not having any like connection base in music, but they're not really like
they're not putting the
legwork to like go out and like support other people and like hope they support them back and stuff, or I mean that, or like there's just not like you're not giving an ad, like you're not adding anything to this community of art, you know? And I think like you really have to find like what your contribution is in the early days, like what can I provide to this community of art that they can provide back to me. I think a lot of people want to skip that step.
And like a little goes a long way. It just like if you find like a band that like, I don't know, like you have like no connection with, but you think the music's cool, just repost it on your story, go to their show, buy a t-shirt, even like pick up like a free sticker. Like a little goes a long way.
Yeah, it totally does, dude.
Yeah, any type of support goes it goes a long way.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys remember like in the beginning, like times where wasn't anybody supporting, and like those first people, like those first early supporters, like those always go on to like mean the most. Like when did you guys realize people were coming back to shows, and like how did that feel?
Man, what?
I forgot what show it was, but we played the Observatory in where's the Observatory?
Oh, in Santa Ana.
Santa Ana, Santa Ana Observatory, and then there was this girl that came up to me after. She was like, "Can I get your socials and stuff? You guys were great." And then I saw her at the very next show that we played. I forgot what it was.
Oh, that's so cool.
I saw her after, and then she was like, "Wait, you were at that show?" And it was like, "Yeah, man, I really like your music." And then I think that was like my first interaction with like a true fan or something like that.
Yeah.
But that was like a special moment to me. It was like someone actually like that knows our music is here,
Yeah.
and not just like this rando that came for another band.
It's such a crazy, like, surreal feeling.
Yeah.
It's almost like I don't want to believe it, but like it's
Mm.
super, like, we get super fucking grateful for that.
Yeah, dude. And I mean, like, that's something I think you never forget.
No.
Yeah.
Like, you never forget, like, that person who actually was, like, impacted by something that you did, be it music, art, like, whatever it is. It's just like knowing that, like, something you did wasn't just like throwing it into the ether.
Yeah. Like, oh, there's people actually buying merch. Like, oh, there's people actually coming up to us after the show. Like, it goes a long way, because you're like, you go home with that, like, with that idea of like, cool, like, there's people that really like our music, and then they're probably gonna come see us next time.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's really hard to comprehend that sometimes.
Yeah.
To, like, make sense of it, especially when it begins to get bigger and like things spiral. I feel like it'd probably be very difficult to like wrap your head around the fact that like you're just not throwing things into the void anymore, especially if you do it for so long, you know. What do you guys think like are the biggest moments of like tangible growth you've found? Like, were there any like benchmark things that you've checked off where you were like, oh, okay, like this means we're moving somewhere?
I think
the Seattle show on our last tour back in June. So we have a homie named Nim who I forget how she found us, but she lives in like Vancouver, Canada.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And
that's right.
We announced the tour, we went on a tour back in June, and we played the Funhouse in Seattle, and she flew out from Vancouver, Canada to Seattle to come see us at the Funhouse.
Yeah.
And it was such a crazy thing, like, damn, like,
It's
someone,
like,
like,
whoa.
I know it's like a landlocked thing, but, like, someone crossed, like, international lines to fucking come see us. That's a crazy fucking thing.
Yeah.
Before that, no, she came to another show, didn't she? She
No,
was in LA for a bit. What? No.
I think she was in LA for a bit, but I don't know if she came to the show. Because I know it was a show in the garage that you're talking about. I don't know if she was there. I could be wrong. Nim, if you're listening or you're watching,
Shout out to her.
She's
She's
yeah.
cool. She's really cool.
Let us know if you were at that show.
Yeah, dude. I feel like moments of tangible growth like that are things where you go back and you're like, okay, like, yeah, we're doing
something right here. We're doing something right.
For me, it was like the first time someone asked, "When's your next release?" Like, that's like, I know it doesn't sound like much, but
Dude,
it's like
everything.
saying like I really like your music and I want more.
Yeah.
Like that's like someone saying that basically to you, and that's like how I read it. And it was like, dude, somebody actually like wants more of our music. Instead of us just like making it as like what we want to do.
Yeah.
But someone actually wants us to do more.
I totally feel that because that is like an important distinction. Because I think I feel the same way about like what I do. Like, I would do it forever if nobody watched, and you know, like nothing ever came of it. I would literally do it forever. But like the distinction between you doing it forever for you and then like somebody else seeing it and want it like impacting them emotionally or them wanting to do something because of that, that's a whole different kind of encouragement. It's like it's bigger than you then. You know? And I think it being you forever is enough. Like, I think it's totally okay.
Because
it's totally okay if like literally forever like you were just creating art and you love doing that for yourself. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But I think like it becomes something else when it's impacting other people.
Yeah, and then there's other people like getting chimed into it, or there's people like, hey, like we came out to this show, we're gonna come out to this show. So you're kind of like, oh, okay, like there's a different perspective behind it, especially when there's people coming to see you like that.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. Were there any bands like when you guys were coming up that you saw that kind of like did that for you, where you're like, oh, like I want to do that?
I think Bad. I seen
Shout out Bad.
Bad,
Shout
dude.
out Bad.
Yeah, I seen them in Almani with Grave Secrets. They did a little show there, and like when I seen them, I was like, dude, there's something that's going on here that's really like erupting, and like I want to get involved. And like I think seeing him especially for that show too, that was cool, man. Like that was different. It was a different experience.
That's so sick, dude. Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, Bed live, they just fucking rip.
Fucking rip, yeah.
Dude,
they're crazy, man.
He's fucking
Shout out to him,
insane
man.
live.
Yeah, no, that's so cool, dude. I feel like there's such like a tangible, like really, really, really cool thing happening with like LA rock music right now.
It's coming
that's
back
like
for sure.
Very, very
Yeah,
exciting.
It's erupting.
And I feel like, dude, I feel like my favorite sign of like a flourishing scene is when like there's bands that are like directly being inspired by other bands in that scene.
Yeah.
I feel like that relationship is like what propels things forward forever, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's super exciting, especially just, as somebody who's not from here. Too, like I feel so lucky I got to like move here and like kind of experience it as like an outsider,
be part of it, be a part of this whole scene that's coming on.
Yeah, which is super exciting and super cool. When you guys were like because I look back at like a ton of like the shows you guys played when you kind of first started coming up, and you were gigging like a ton.
Yeah.
You were playing like a lot of fucking shows, and we were talking before like you guys all work like normal jobs as well.
Yes.
How did you like get to a place where you could just play that many shows and also kind of like balance normal lives? Because I'm sure that was very difficult in the early days. And do you think you found that balance more so now?
I think a lot of it comes from.
Also, keep passing my water.
Oh yeah.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, you got it.
Thanks.
I think a lot of it comes from just like having jobs where like they understand the flexibility and having like friends and family that understand like, hey, this is something that like we 100% believe in.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go head first into it.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, yeah, we might not be at every show, but we're backing you 100%, and that goes a long way too.
Yeah.
Just knowing that like we got people like behind us.
Yeah.
Which gets easier and easier as you get like to bigger and bigger like venues. It's like easier to believe like, oh, this is actually like doing something where I'm not just like this is not just my hobby.
I totally I totally feel that. I mean, there's like those benchmarks. I also think like one thing that's really important for that is like just being like incredibly outwardly passionate.
Oh
just being like super unapologetically like to everybody you meet, be it like your parents or whoever it is, but just like I'm gonna do
to
this.
show that to show like this is my life and this is what I'm gonna do. Like it goes a long way to, especially when you go on stage and play, like you can tell like, oh, these guys are passionate, like they really care about their craft, and I think that's cool to see with a lot of bands nowadays too.
Yeah, and I feel like that's actually a big difference. I think in like more modern day kind of like just like I guess all music really, just like young musicians, but like I do feel like it's now not really like a popular thing to like cool guy people and you know just like act like you're like nonchalant.
I'm too cool to be here, or like this. Yeah, you're like like I think it's more noticeable when you act like that versus when like these dudes are cool, man. These dudes are passionate about what they do. They care about their music, and they're not being dicks about it too. Like I think that goes a long way,
like
especially.
Part of the scene, like,
like we're here all just to play music.
Yeah, like we're all here for the same thing, man. Like
and like really caring and like not and like not being ashamed to like act like you care.
Yeah,
no, exactly. Yeah,
I think it's I think ASAP Rocky said this one time, but he was like, it's so cool to give a fuck. Like stop not giving a fuck. Yeah, which I think is super super true. And I think like there was a long time where I feel like when I was definitely growing up like in some localized music scenes, I had a lot of experiences where I felt like people would just like, you'd be like, oh dude, that was like an amazing set, that was super cool, and they'd be like, ah, for sure. Or like,
oh, thanks, man.
This is a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah, it makes you. It's like, bro. Like, why do you like? You just played like a 200 cat venue. Why do you think you're God? Like,
And that goes back to like the thing about like some like musicians like thinking they deserve like like the success.
It goes back to just staying humble. I think that's just a big part. Just stay humble.
A huge part of it.
Not to name any names, but I definitely like when there are bands that like try to like cool eye people or like just pretend that they're better than everyone else. Yeah, I definitely hear like other bands and people just kind of talking shit on them.
100%.
It's always like I feel like it's always this like an unspoken thing where everybody knows, you know. How was talking more about like, you know, like making like kind of getting that proof for yourself and like convincing yourself that you can do this. When you guys like first started taking this super seriously, how was like the reaction from your family and stuff? Like, are any of them in music? Are they all like supportive of it?
I mean, my family, we have like a long lineage of musicians, but only like one person has like kind of done it for a living. I have a great uncle. His name's he passed a couple years ago, but his name's Johnny Powers. Oh, thank you. He was a rockabilly musician back in the 50s. Sick. He was like the first white dude to get signed to Sun Records, and also the first artist to be signed to Sun and Motown simultaneously.
Whoa.
Yeah, he made a whole career out of it. I have like distant aunts and uncles who are like they were real heavy into polka music, which I don't know, like I never heard of it. My grandpa goes on and on about how like, yeah, there's the Pavlik family polka band and they used to play at every family reunion. I was like, oh shit, that sounds kind of wild.
What's polka music? German, right? Or Swedish? Or like
Polish, I think. Yeah, Polish.
That makes sense.
I swear to God, every day I like figured out a new like life fact about Stefan's family. And it's like the most random thing ever.
every single day from his grandparents.
Yeah, because we crashed with them.
Yeah, when we were like recording at his house, we literally like heard this story every single day. It was like, oh, he used to work with whoever.
Yeah, it goes back to what we were saying earlier. Like, not only was like my great uncle like completely unapologetically like passionate about his music, but like the family was too.
That's really cool.
But yeah, I don't know.
Ripping the accordion and shit.
Ripping the accordion, ripping the
That's
fucking big ass guitar and the stand up bass.
You guys gotta get an accordion on stage,
bro.
Yeah.
That'd be fire.
Casey with his xylophone.
I know one of the songs we used a xylophone.
You ripped the xylophone?
Yeah, he ripped the xylophone on one of the songs.
He just brought it out of nowhere in this like during our studio session. We didn't realize he brought it, and he just started playing. I was like, okay, I guess this is happening.
Listening to the take and
we technically have one song that has a synth. In our first album, someone keeps telling us to bring it back, but I'm sorry, dude. We're not bringing a synth.
It's probably not gonna come back.
It's probably not gonna come.
I tossed around the idea of like doing like a 5-year. Obviously, it's still way in the future because I think the album's like 3 years old at this point. But doing like a 5-year like anniversary thing where we just play like the very first album from start to finish. But it's so funny to think about that because like we only play like 2 of those songs now.
Yeah, we're such a different band.
Yeah, there's been such like a big switch.
Yeah,
interesting.
I mean, half the band members are different.
Half the band members are different. This is very true.
What do you guys feel like the biggest switch is? Like from that album to like I guess like the last EP and the new single and just like obviously all the new music. Like from that era to this era, does it feel like distinct periods of time that are different?
We were definitely more experimental on our first album. I think every band is pretty experimental on their first album.
Album's always
Yeah, we weren't really like thinking of like, oh, this is what we want to sound like, or this is what our general sound is gonna be like. We were kind of just like doing like throwing everything against the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
And then I guess what stuck was like what we make right now. I guess. Yeah.
But I think it was Crystal Bloom that really shifted everything, where people really took to that song and they were like, oh, like this is sick, and we were like, damn, we did this, like, and then that just kind of influenced like the EP and Coming Clean and like everything that we're probably gonna be doing for the next record.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Even before Crystal Bloom came out as like a recorded song, when we started playing it live at live shows, everyone was like, when is this like coming out and recording? We'll be like, dude, we actually wrote this song and it's like actually pretty good.
Yeah. Was that the first time you'd had that experience at like a live setting where people like everybody collectively took to like one song? You're like, oh, that's the one.
Yeah, that'd be the one.
That's sick, dude. Yeah, it's got to be such a great feeling because you just never know.
Yeah.
You know. What I'm sorry, I could have cut you off too. Would you guys the rest of you want to talk about like how kind of your family's relationship to music has been and like how that's impacted you or like how they look at everything?
Mostly my dad, he's really into like classic rock.
Sick.
Which like kind of shifted into like the 80s, 90s, and maybe early 2000s, like pop punk into that area. But for the most part, no, I'm kind of like the first person that in the family to start like really into this like alternative scene.
Oh, that's sick, dude.
Yeah, but Stefan kind of like introduced me to most of the bands here, and it's like I really like this. So
were you into it prior?
I'd had heard of like this kind of stuff a little bit, but not like anything like really niche. Like he introduced me to like modern baseball and like Joyce Manor and like all those like big name bands that
You're welcome.
that kind of influenced us. And then I was like, yo, I kind of want to full send it into and make my own, you know?
That's sick, dude. Did you guys go to high school together? Is that how you met?
No, we're not even from the same city.
No. Funny enough, how we met was okay. I always describe it as like the Craigslist for musicians.
Vamper?
No, Bandmix.
Oh, there's multiple?
Vamper, man.
Yeah, there's a website called Bandmix.
Vamper's the exact same thing.
Yeah. I've never
it's like
heard of Vamper.
It's like Tinder for musicians.
It's like Tinder for musicians.
Yeah, it's like that's what I know.
I know a band that met on there.
Oh fuck!
Like a successful band, like has been doing this for like 8 years.
Oh shit!
They met on Vamper. Yeah,
that's so crazy.
Yeah,
but yeah, I was actually Glashin started with me and one of my friends from high school, and we were just kind of jamming around, just like fucking around with songs and shit. And then I was like, bro, let's find a drummer. And he was like, okay. So I was like, damn, where do we find a drummer? Because we weren't really tapped into our local scene all that much. And yeah, I was just like, okay, there's this website I think I googled like how do I find band members, and like Bandmix's like sponsored thing came up. I was like, fuck it, it's a free account. I found him, and I was just kind of like what I've always been doing, even with like booking the shows, just shooting everything into the dark. Because it said that his account wasn't active for like a year and a half. And I was like, I sent him a message. I was like, hey man, blah, 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 here's my number. And he hit me back like, I think a month later.
Oh my God.
He was actually an email.
He was like the second person to hit me back.
That's crazy.
And we were going to try out this other dude, but then the other dude never showed up. And I was like, hey man, like, you free tomorrow? He's like, heck yeah.
Heck yeah. Oh, heck yeah.
Oh, heck yeah. That's sick, bro.
That's my catchphrase now.
That's how it was born. The love has been real since.
And then it's just been rolling ever since, yeah.
That's great. And then
history.
When did the rest of you guys meet?
It's a weird story.
So we had a few bassists before this. But I actually joined a second project called Vaughn's Island.
Which is like my original band too. So like so it kind of came from like a different background too.
I joined, and then this guy also joined Vaughn's Island after me.
I joined I actually hit Casey up before you did, but they wanted to find a drummer first, so they didn't audition me until
at the
after.
time we didn't have a drummer. Yeah, at the time it was just me and our singer. It was just bass player and singer.
So I joined, and then our previous bassist, something came up, and he wasn't able to play a show, and so I just asked him because I knew him as a bassist.
Yeah, it was like a 3-day notice.
Bassist, not gonna lie.
Yeah, it was funny though. It was like.
It was like. It was like 2 or 3 days.
They have a show like it was like the show at the Smell like Sunday, and it's like Friday, Thursday night. Hey man, you're down to play the show?
Learn all these songs.
Learn all these songs in like 3 days, and I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Yeah, let's do it, man.
Andrew, real quick, because he got our entire set plus Coming Clean.
Oh yeah,
I think we had like
Coming Clean.
Just finished writing that song, and he learned it like within like
That's
a 2 or 3 days
I forgot about
and
that.
played it perfectly.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So and then this guy joined in like maybe like
Right after
2 months, maybe like a month.
Yeah.
Right after tour.
It was like maybe like a week or so after tour.
Yeah,
there was 2 shows after tour, and then I joined.
He came up with us on tour, and then he was kind of like learning the songs because he was like listening to them every single night.
I know.
I was kind of learning them as a joke.
On the guitar.
And then it just kind of happened.
It was like, oh, you need a new guitar player? Like, I'm ready for practice.
I know
already know your songs.
That's so natural. Like, that's really cool.
It worked. It worked in a well respected manner.
Yeah, like things are never supposed to be that calculated.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude.
I think it's cool when it just like rolls into place and it feels natural. It makes sense. I've cut you guys off 4 times now.
No worries, man.
We were talking about the family thing.
Yeah. No worries. Oh yeah. I started because of my dad. I kind of grew up in the music oriented home where like music just everywhere, and it was kind of like it was kind of not forced upon me, but like I found once I discovered like Metallica and like Iron Maiden and those bands in like 5th grade, I was like, oh man, those guys are cool. I want to try learning that. And then my dad was in like the Boyle Heights like hardcore scene in like the 90s.
Sick.
So he was already in like the music scene and like the touring, and he was like, well, I mean, if you want a bass or like if you want, it's right there. You can just pick it up. So then, pretty much from there, and like, I started joining bands like when I was like in 7th grade or like 8th grade. So I already kind of like I had a feel for it. And then from there, just pretty much like after college is when I met these dudes. So like kind of just been music oriented like my whole life.
Was your dad in bands?
Yeah, he was in a couple bands. He was in a band called Opposition, which it was just a bunch of like hardcore thrash bands in the 90s that were just doing it like crazy. Like, but yeah, once he discovered like, hey, I want to do music, he was like, oh, okay, now you have to do it, and then started giving me like all like the lessons, and like so it worked in my favor for the most part.
Damn, that's so cool, bro.
So shout out to my dad.
Yeah, that's what I want to do with my kids. I'm gonna like force my kids into music. Like, you do it. You gotta do it. Like, you gotta do it. Like, you have to tour, man. Like, that's what he'd always tell me. Like, dude, as soon as you can tour, man, you gotta do it. I don't care. Like,
that's yeah.
What about you?
Oh, sorry.
I mean, yeah, I'm kind of the first person in my family to kind of do music. I mean, growing up Asian, I obviously learned piano. Can you relate?
No.
You can't?
I played drums from the beginning.
Damn, okay. But like growing up...
My brother learned piano.
Yeah, growing up like really young, I mean, I learned piano and stuff like that, but I don't know. I kind of... My bad. I kind of always wanted to like learn guitar. I had like one lesson when I was like really, really young. And like the teacher told my mom like, oh, he can't play because his pinky's too weak. What? I'm not lying.
What does that mean?
I know.
I don't even know. This was forever ago.
Your pinky's too weak? What?
Yeah,
I've never heard that in my life.
Yeah, I mean, and then time passed, and I decided like, oh, whatever, I'm gonna ask my parents for a guitar when I was in like 7th grade. So I got my first actual like guitar kit, and I kind of just started playing from there. In 8th grade, my middle school had like a rock band class where we kind of just did a bunch of covers of like rock songs and stuff. So that's kind of where I started. I mean, I'm mostly self-taught for the most part, but yeah, that's kind of where I started. And then 9th grade, I joined a band that disbanded because of COVID. And then I joined These Losers right after high school for me. I found the flyer for Vaughn's Island, like looking for a guitarist. Just kind of, I was touring around PCC like right before I went in to like actually do school stuff. And yeah, I just found their flyer. I hit our other guy Casey up, and yeah, that's just kind of how it happened for me.
That's beautiful. That's like, it's so natural. I love it. Yeah, it sounds like is Vaughn's Island kind of like a brother band?
Oh yeah, I mean we share 3 members.
Like, take me out, put another white boy in.
Yeah, that's kind of just how it is.
Okay, do you guys play a lot of shows together?
We did kind of like earlier this year, but not so much.
We play a couple shows together. I mean, I would say we're pretty different just in styles. So I mean, occasionally we play shows together. We also like, because we share 3 members, like, you know, we don't want to tire each other out before like the second
mostly
set.
Me, because
mostly him.
In both bands.
Yeah.
Bonds is challenging drums, and then Glass is challenging because I do
vocals
singing at the same time.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that because that's like fucking really impressive. And like I'm a drummer too, and like drumming and singing at the same time is incredibly difficult. Do you do that in the other band as well?
No, not really. No,
Gotcha.
not really.
Was that the plan, like, from the beginning? Were you guys always splitting vocals?
I think it just
like,
kind of happened.
Yeah, we never really found a singer for Glass Generation.
No.
We looked for the longest time, and then we were just like, you know what? Oh, by the time of our first album, when we had to like really record it, we couldn't find a singer.
Yeah.
And so I just hopped on vocals, and then like it kind of just went from there. I would just be like, I would sing and drum, and I kind of just learned both of the parts simultaneously, and then it just evolved from there.
It's interesting. I would imagine you have to think about drumming in like an entirely different way when you're singing, because like for example, like on the parts that, like, I would imagine the parts that you're not singing, right? Like, you know, like bridges or whatever where there's no vocals or something, you could play like a way crazier fill, but like on like sections where you're singing like it breaks my brain to think about singing like a complex melody and then playing in like a strange time signature at the same time. That's like so much fucking brain power, dude.
To be fair, we don't play in weird time signatures. We gotta stick to 4/4.
I think Shirley is the only one that's like
6/8. Yeah. But even then, it's 6/8. It's really easy.
Yeah, but also Shirley is kind of the most difficult one for me to like sync up to. Yeah. That one's pretty difficult to.
But even just singing at the same time as playing drums, like, that just like breaks my brain. That's like so two very different muscles.
That's not easy, man.
How long did it take you to like not only like just learn and become comfortable as a vocalist, but like learn to do the two at the same time?
So I've always been a drummer since I was like 5. So that kind of just came naturally to me at first. And then I think at the beginning of high school, I started in choir, and that's kind of like where I started like singing. I was in bands before, and then I was like not comfortable with singing, and then I had, to be honest, this girl I had a crush on told me to join choir with her, and so I was like, heck yeah. And so, heck yeah. And so that's kind of where I learned how to sing. And so when we started up like this Glass Gen thing, we started up Glass Gen, there was no singer, and so I was kind of like the only one that was like experienced with singing, and so I kind of just like when we were trying to like write songs, I would be like, oh, this part should go like this, and then the vocals would be layered on top, and then when we were trying to like write songs, I would just play and sing at the same time, and then it was more of a necessity thing at first, but then as we later like kept going and going, we found out like it actually kind of works.
Yeah, that was like the thing. That was like our thing. Yeah,
that is a thing to have for sure. Like it's that definitely like sets you apart from a lot of bands. There aren't very many drummers that like sing like that. Like it's fucking it's a crazy thing for me to comprehend. Like I as a drummer, I don't know if I could like figure out how to do that and like or at least play like parts that are like, I don't know, conducive to singing while you're doing them. Does it change the way you drum, you think?
Yes, it does. I definitely do like look for I guess parts that match up to like the singing, or even if it doesn't match up, I will like understand in my brain like this fill will happen while I'm holding out this note.
Yeah.
And then it's like I'm very like I calculated very very like carefully.
Yeah. No, I would imagine. Was it difficult to become, because it's interesting too, like this is a whole other like dynamic part of it, but it's like as a drummer, like you're usually in the back of the stage, and like I mean like performing for me has always been like, as a drummer, it's nice because I can hide behind everybody. But when you're a vocalist and a drummer, you kind of eliminate that. You kind of eliminate the aspect of hiding behind everybody else that you have. Was it hard to go from like being a drummer that's like I said, like is kind of in the back to like a vocalist where you're kind of the opposite of that, and having to find a way to like, you know, just become more comfortable on stage?
No, that kind of happened in choir, because I was in choir and I was in a different thing called show choir, where you kind of do like singing and dancing at the same time.
Oh,
and
I
kind of had to abandon
like
like not being seen when I joined that. I gave up my pride for that. But
I think that's called theater for losers.
Damn,
as a theater kid.
You ain't got to see that shit, man.
That's crazy.
But like,
The two theater kids, man.
But yeah, that kind of like got rid of my like hiccups for like performing.
Yeah.
And of course, I had been like performing before. I was in other bands, and I was always like involved in like music and stuff. Like I was in like marching band and orchestra and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it kind of just came naturally to me. Of course, like my first few shows with Last Gen, like you have the like a little bit of like hiccups.
Yeah.
But no, it just grew naturally over time. It's just be like, you know, I guess this is my life now.
Yeah. Was that difficult for the rest of you guys, like getting comfortable on stage, or did it kind of always come naturally?
Yeah, for me it was really tough because like these guys have all been in like other bands and stuff.
Yeah.
I've always tried to start a band, but Glass Gen is the first band where like something actually came of it.
Yeah.
So this is, this is my first band. So like in the beginning, it was just a lot of like, oh fuck, like I gotta look forward at people that are looking at me, and like this is crazy.
Did you find anything that helped that in like the early days, like figuring out like techniques or stuff that you can like use to not be as anxious or as nervous on stage?
On stage, moving.
Nice. That makes sense.
Because if I'm not looking at them, they're not looking at me.
Yeah.
But in actual, they're just watching me going back and forth.
When I joined the band, I got on him for that reason too. Because like when I first joined the band, it's not they weren't moving, but I'm like, dude, come on, let's show that you want to be there. So like now, like especially now, like he's everywhere, like going up and down the stage or running. I'm like, yeah, that works.
I fucked up my foot at the glass house.
Dude, at the smell, I felt like, yeah.
Well, you threw yourself against the wall.
That's me. That's me being my attention whore when it comes to being on stage.
It happens,
fair.
bro. Yeah. We threw a show with the Mexican Slum Rats this weekend, and at the end of the show, Kevin nosedived into the drum set. So I was like, yeah.
I know that hurt the next day.
Yeah, bro. I was like, that's the craziest shit I've ever seen. Yeah. But was it easy for you to get comfortable on stage, or did it kind of take a bit?
I mean, for me, I've kind of always like performed. Like again, for when I learned piano as a kid, we had like piano like concerts and stuff on stage, on like big stage with parents. I mean, also just I did theater and like rock band in my school and stuff. So I mean, moving around a lot more is kind of coming slowly. He gets on my ass about it all the time just because I don't know. I find it easy to just kind of stand there and like play my little thing. Yeah. Like I try to move, but you know. But I mean, being like actually like comfortable just being on stage and playing, just I feel like it came pretty naturally for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think it's always interesting because I think for some people it's such a natural instinct, and some people it's such a learned thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that it takes a long time. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah. Oh no, you're okay.
Yeah, but a good example. Like I was watching an interview with James Hetfield where he's like, dude plays in front of like 50,000 people, and he's still like, yeah, no, I still get really scared to be on stage and stuff. So I think it just depends on maybe the person. But yeah, I think everyone gets still like a little nervous.
I mean, there's some artists I know who just never like.
Oh yeah, and then there's people that are just like, no, I'm just going on stage and
or the opposite, where some people just like they can be the biggest artist in the world, but they just never get ahead of those nerves. Because I mean, honestly, like how can you blame somebody? Like it's so like non-human and weird.
Yeah.
Like it's so strange. So like try to comprehend that you are this person and all these folks are like literally like below, like quite like physically like below, like you like are on stage and they're below you watching you and they're looking up to you. That's like a really like overwhelming feeling. Try to comprehend and make sense of.
Yeah, especially like knowing all eyes are on you in a sense. It's like, oh
yeah,
like if something goes wrong, like everyone's looking at me. So like,
That's what happened to me at like the Glass House when we played it. That was like for sure the biggest show we've ever played with the most people like watching us at the same time.
Yeah, it's a big room.
Yeah,
I think there was like what 300 people.
400 people.
We were like the opening band too. And yeah, like the moment I got on stage, I looked straight out of the crowd, and in my head I was like, oh fuck no. And like I don't think throughout our entire set list until like the last couple songs I didn't look directly at the crowd.
Yeah, that's funny, dude. How did that show come about?
Again, just cold fucking emailing
That's
people.
sick.
We were on tour. I think we were driving to like Vegas or Phoenix or something. And I saw that Sad Park was playing at the Glass House, and they didn't have like, there was no like opener, just kind of like set. And like we love those guys. Like I really started listening to them like, I think again like right after we finished like the first record. They've always kind of been around because my little sister was listening to them all through high school.
Sick.
So they were kind of always playing in the house, like looking back on it. But yeah, I was like, yo, do you guys want me to hit up the Glass House and see if we can get on the Sad Park show? I'm like, yeah, fuck it, whatever. Send them an email. Within like a day, they were like, we were talking about it, like we were trying to make it happen. And then I think it was like a week after I initially emailed them, they sent me an email at like 7 in the morning, like, all right, you guys are locked in. Like, send us like some promo, send us your logo, and they started sending us ad mats and shit. And it was really sick.
Just a crazy random.
Yeah, that one was
never
like,
thought it would actually
that one was
like,
crazy. That one
like
was
do anything. But then once he told us, it was like, oh, this might actually happen. I was like, wait, holy shit!
Yeah,
like this
bro,
might actually happen. Like
that's such a lesson.
Yeah.
Like, just fucking shoot, dude. Shoot or
You
shoot.
never know.
Like,
You
you
never know.
The worst people can say is no.
Yeah, exactly.
And that like, I don't know. At the most, it's like, all right, now I know, like, I'm not ready. We're not ready for this kind of thing yet. Let's keep building for something like this.
And the more you try, the more chances you have to
Exactly.
succeed.
Yeah, I actually feel like in most cases, if you're in music in any regard, you should just never be shooting what like shit that you think will happen. Like I think if you think it'll happen, you're shooting too low. I think you should always be shooting high and just at a really high frequency.
Yeah,
so you're just
100%.
doing it. Like
High
for
volume.
example, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like if you emailed like 100 bands, you know, the size of Sad Park, like one of them is probably going to be
Someone's
like,
gonna answer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
someone's gonna answer.
Yeah, I was like someone, you know, yeah, like you said, I think that the worst thing that can happen is somebody says no.
Yeah, like one yes is gonna make up for like 99 no's.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Writing wise, when you guys began playing bigger shows like that, did that change or inform the way that you wrote songs in a different way? Like, or I guess just shows in general. Have there been any shows where like that changed the way that you looked at the writing process? Because, you know, for whatever reason, you're like, this person's reaction to this made me think of it in this way. And then you guys write differently because of that?
I think looking back, kind of, yeah. I mean, or at least going forward for the new stuff. Because we weren't really playing anything at the beginning of this year. We wanted to focus on writing, and I was booking the tour, so I just kind of wanted to focus on that. And we wrote Coming Clean, and we knew we liked it. We knew it was good. And then we started playing it live, and people were like, oh, fuck. Like, what is that? Like, when is that coming out? Is that recorded? Like, is this from the new album? We were playing it all through tour, and I think we were in San Diego. We just finished our set. We ended the set with Coming Clean, and people were like walking out, just screaming like, "Drop the song! We need the song!" And I was like, "Oh shit!" So now,
I dropped it. Yeah.
I was like, "Fuck! I guess we got him now." At least for me, it's like going into like, okay, well, I want to give people the same like feeling that Coming Clean did, because I feel like in a live setting it has a lot of energy. It makes people want to move. So I feel like that's definitely going to play a factor in the new stuff that we're writing.
Yeah, definitely more upbeat for sure. Definitely more like live, capturing more of like that crowd surf, I guess, something more of that nature, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of grew up in like a very like sheltered like house. So the first time I've ever seen like a circle pit. This was going a little like way back, but I think it was Crack Brewery with the Piss Show.
Crack Brewery?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a spot in
You
Carson.
guys are dropping the craziest names.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I don't even know this one.
There was a spot. It's I think it's still there now, but they don't throw shows anymore because it got way too crazy. But
that is blasphemy.
There was a spot
Crack brewery.
It was in Carson.
Crazy at Crack Brewery.
Hit the circle pit at Crack Brewery.
They let a lot of the hardcore bands throw shows there, and our homies in this old band called Piss, they were opening up for Deviated State for their music video shoot. And it was the craziest shit. It was like the first time that was like my first hardcore show. Yeah. It was the first time I saw like crowd killing. The way it was set up, like way in the back, because it was in like this little like warehouse hangar type thing. Yeah. You walk in through the garage and like there's the big like marble like bar setup. And then off to the like the right of it is where the stage would be, and like everybody's like filled in between. Motherfuckers were like hopping on the bar when the bartenders were turning around and jumping off.
I love when that happens. So much beer that night.
Yeah. I left with somebody else's blood on my shirt. That was insane. Like it was all down my sleeve. I was freaking out because I thought I got like cut real bad. And then I took off my shirt when I got home. Like, oh man, I'm not cut or anything.
I actually did get a cut. I got it. It still has a scar here, but yeah. But that was the first time I've ever seen like people like react like that to music, and I was like, it wasn't exactly like that. But then we were like, we got to bring like the energy up a little bit. Yeah. And we had a few attempts that actually never got recorded, but I think Coming Clean was kind of like our our pinnacle of like that energy, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. What was your reaction like when you first saw that for the first time and never seen anything like that before?
I think someone did warn me to like expect like this is what happens at like
that's probably my
like
sister.
This. Yeah. And then I was like, okay. And then when I actually saw it happen, I was like, that kind of actually looks fun. And then I went in, and then I almost died. But then then I was like, it's an adrenaline rush that like never like leaves you. Like the first time you go moshing is like that's
something takes you.
Something takes you.
Yeah, I think like the shot of you pitting is in the music video.
Yeah, it is.
This guy's the one that starts all the pits whenever we go to a show now.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, dude, that's sick. You guys like it's interesting. Like I think your guys' music has like hints, like some more post-hardcore type stuff, but like not in like a super traditional way, because it's like wrapped in like a lot of like cool like more pop punky influences and stuff.
Like an emo element to it, but there's also like post-hardcore in a way.
Yeah. Like, do you guys like ever like get listeners from that world? Like any kind of like hardcore adjacent listeners, or is it more from like the
as of late a little bit, because we got booked on who did we play with? We played with a couple hardcore bands like earlier this summer.
Q. Was it
Timex.
They start with the Q.
Q.
We played. It was in Long Beach, that one record store. It was a hardcore show, and we were like,
oh, I don't know if it was
Quasi or
Ozai.
There you go.
Ozai.
Oh yeah.
Ozai, Mad Peaceful. Shout out Chappelle Lacey. His band's fucking sick as shit.
Yeah, they're crazy, man. They were cool.
They were sick as fuck. And then I think later that summer we got booked with like Whirlwind and like Blind Fortune and a couple other. It was like a mixed like pop punk like hardcore type bill.
Okay.
It was really sick. I think a lot of people ended up fucking with our sound after that. I think after those shows we would start playing Coming Clean, people were actually like starting to two-step to it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, this is crazy.
Damn, it's hella cool when those worlds combine. Like I feel like there was a long time where I think certain demographics in rock music are just like hated on other fucking demographics
like
than rock
punk
music.
Versus like rock or like that demographic.
Which is so stupid.
Yeah.
It's just like it's all like guitar based music that like generally is just like varying degrees of strength of like the same sound.
Yeah.
It's like just
Gatekeeping always goes wild.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. But I don't know. I mean, me personally, I'm thankful for bands like Basement and like Title Fight and those kinds of bands who kind of like have bridged the gap, whether like they were a hardcore band to start or like their members like were in hardcore bands. Yeah. And then like they brought like their own like little tastes and like the old fans over. Because it's really bridging the gap now. Or even, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, or even like some of the screamier like bands that still are very emo.
Yeah.
Like bands that like they'll have like screamier like Pierce the Veil adjacent type stuff, where it's like they'll have like screamier bits, but they're also very much like in like kind of the emo rock lens or lane.
Oh yeah, like Free Throw too.
Yeah.
Free Throw,
Free Throw.
Yeah, I think it's cool that those worlds are kind of like more intertwined now, opposed to just like, I don't know. I think it's stupid that anybody would want those things to not like exist in the same ether.
Because like you make cool ass shit from it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what it all boils down to. Like people are making cool ass shit.
Yeah, exactly. What the writing process for you guys, is it a thing that is kind of collaborative, or do like one of you guys come with like some of the lyrics and then like everybody else builds the instrumentals around it?
Kind of a mix of both now.
Yeah, it's very, very up in the air. Like Coming Clean, I played in another band called Dry Spell, and I was on tour with them, and I think we were in the van like going up to like Portland or something, and I wrote like the first draft of the lyrics to Coming Clean. But I hadn't written like any like guitars or anything like that. Then I wrote this little like chord part and a little lead part. I brought it to them, and he was like, "Oh, let's do this." And I was like, "Oh fuck, I have lyrics for it." And that just kind of spelled. But like in the past, it's always been kind of like, "Oh, he has an idea, and we like wrap around it," or "I have an idea, we wrap around it," or like he'll be like, "I wrote this drum part with like a vocal melody, so let's finish everything with that."
So it's just like a combination of bringing things to the table, and then like everybody else just throws their flair on top.
For the most part, like or in the studio, like, oh hey, I wrote this, and then like we'll all kind of chime in from there. Usually goes on from there.
A lot of the times, even like most of the time, like the original idea becomes like such a small part you can't even.
Oh yeah, or that too. Like the original like riff is something completely different.
So cool. Like I believe it was Crystal Bloom, the bassist at the time, Sam. He wrote like what eventually became like the verse. But then I was like, what if we put like this guitar part over it? And I played it on the guitar, and then it kind of just evolved from there. But then the original idea just it was only the verse basically.
That's so cool. Yeah. How the way things like spiral. It's kind of like a ball of clay. It's like something can start as something, and then you mold it and touch it, and like just literally turn into something entirely different. And like what it began as is just like not even in the blueprint anymore. It's such like an interesting process when that happens, I think. And I think it like, I don't know, it goes to show like I think no idea deserves to be abandoned. Because I think like something can start somewhere and end somewhere entirely different, and I think sometimes the best ideas come from that, you know. All right, Glass Generation. Last thing I want to ask you guys, if you had like one overarching message that you think you could spread through your music and through your output and through the band, what would it be?
God.
Sum it all up.
Just fucking go for it. Just go for it. Full send.
Things will get better.
Things will get better.
Things will get better.
Live, man. Tomorrow's not promised. Go shoot for it, man. That's the only way to do it.
Fuck yeah. It's beautiful.
Oh, I have to say something.
Yeah, be motivational, be inspirational.
End on a high note.
We'll put it in like an edit, you know, like an edit with like hard, just like Aphex Twin piano music over it.
Or like funk in the background.
We're gonna put funk under this.
No, I mean, I would just say like using art as just like a creative emotional outlet is some of the best, like one of the best decisions I've made, I think. Just being able to express myself and like just whatever I'm feeling through art.
That's beautiful. Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
Hell yeah. Glass Generation. Thanks for sitting down with me, guys. It's a fun conversation.
Thank you, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, of course. It was a good time. Tell them where they could find you on social media, where they can stream your music. I know you have a tour coming up. Tell them where they can get tickets.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram, TikTok at Glass Generation CA. You can stream our music anywhere you listen to music. We're going to be on tour January 22nd to the 28th. You can head to our Instagram bio and get tickets there and see where we're playing.
Hell yeah. Glass Generation. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Thanks, man.
All right.
man.
Music matters.